Special Agent, this is week 11, and we are close to catching this guy. As you know, the task force was able to capture the math problem killer's accomplice last week, based on a tip we received. He is a disturbing young man named Dwayne Hogarth, but our agents cracked him. He has just recently provided us with a potential location of a safe house, and I have the task force tactical unit en route as we speak. We are going to get him. I can feel it. But while the tactical guys are doing their thing, I need you to do yours. Because the task force has received a communication from the math problem killer. He is holding a young woman named Bailey Holt at 7543 Magnolia Way. As usual, he will allow one agent to enter the facility and attempt to rescue. You have not failed this task force yet, so you leave me no choice. I am sending you inside. Your mission is to enter the facility and recover Bailey Holt. Expect the math problem killer to be agitated, angry, violent, and retaliatory in response to us capturing his accomplice. This guy does not like to get hit back, and he has a history of aggressive killing each time we make a move towards him. Be prepared for uncomfortable fact patterns and psychologically challenging stories. That is intentional. He wants you emotional, and he wants you to make a mistake. Don't fall into this trap. Stay calm, stay analytical, let the facts guide you. Solve the problems, and get Bailey Holt out alive. Good luck, Agent.
Victory by capturing Dwayne Hogarth? Well, let me tell you what that victory got you. Carnage, bloodshed, and slaughter, innocent lives screaming in the dark, and no one coming for them. That is what your victory got you. You captured one of my helpers, so I butchered 3 families. How about that for a trade-off, Special Agents? You capture one helper and I kill 20 people. And you are going to kill the 21st, because I have the lovely Bailey Holt in a metal box at the end of this dungeon. And if you make a single mistake, she is going to die. Turn around, Special Agent. Do you see that lone figure hanging from the ceiling? That is Bella Grissom. She was 23. The moment I learned that you captured Dwayne, I went outside and I grabbed the first woman I found. I grabbed Bella. I walked silently up behind her and grabbed her by the ponytail, then covered her mouth and dragged her to my dungeon. She survived another 63 minutes, and I can assure you, Special Agent, those were the most painful 63 minutes of her life. You capture my helpers, I kill yours. 1 hour after Bella was nothing more than strips of meat, I went to the park to look for the next ones. There were several families there, but I wanted a big one, Special Agent. I wanted to show you the price of taking one of my helpers, and after 35 minutes, I saw them. The Fletchers. A mom, a dad, adolescent girls, and a young boy named Bobby. She was 17 years old. I followed the Fletchers home. It took 17 minutes. I waited 22 minutes and then I entered their house. The first one I found was Lily. She was listening to music, her eyes closed, swaying her head and shoulders back and forth. I grabbed a power cable, wrapped it around her neck, and pulled until she stopped moving. It took 47 seconds. In the next room was Mia Fletcher. She was 15 years old. She was mindlessly scrolling on her phone like all of them do. That is what is so dangerous about focusing on your phone, Special Agent. You don't see the vicious monster behind you. Charlotte Fletcher was third. She was 16 years old, and I killed her too. Now, I want you to start with Charlotte's age, then add the amount of time it took for her sister Lily to stop moving after I started strangling her. Then, I want you to multiply your answer by the number of minutes I waited before I entered the Fletcher house. Your answer will be variable A, Special Agent. Say hi to Clark Fletcher and Amanda Fletcher, the mom and dad. When I was done killing the Fletcher women, I grabbed Clark from behind and tied him to a chair. I hung his wife and 3 girls in the living room and made them look at them. I told him they were dead because of you, because of your task force. And then I slit Clark Fletcher's throat. Listen carefully, Special Agent. I want you to start with the number of minutes I tortured Bella Grissom. Then subtract Mia Fletcher's age. Then multiply by the number of minutes it took me to find the Fletchers in the park. The answer is variable B. Add variable A to variable B. That answer will open door number 1. Six murders is not enough to teach your task force a lesson. Not nearly enough. It is not enough to make up for taking my helper. There needs to be more. There will be more. The day after I finished with the Fletchers, I went out again, and I found the Taylors. With Sasha in the garage, I returned to the house. I heard music in a room down the hallway. I grabbed a large knife from the kitchen and I walked towards the music. That is where I found Scott Taylor, aged 18. He was listening to the music, focused on it. He never heard me approach from behind and shove the knife through the back of his throat. He was dead 11 seconds later. I continued down the hallway and found Dan Taylor, sleeping. He was 20 years old. A quick cut to his throat and he was dead in 16 seconds. I next found Rick Taylor, aged 53, sleeping in the master bedroom. I wanted to get back to Sasha, so I approached and slashed his throat. He was dead in 22 seconds. When they were all dead, I hung them in the living room next to each other. I decorated the bodies with nails. And then I brought Sasha back to the living room so she could admire my work. That is when the phone rang. I want you to start with the number of minutes from when I attacked Erica Taylor to when she was stripped naked and lying on my nail table. Then add the time I entered the Taylor house. You will next add Sasha Taylor's age. The answer will be variable A, Special Agent. I next want you to start with Scott Taylor's age, and then multiply it by the number of seconds it took him to die. You must next add Dan Taylor's age, and then add Rick Taylor's age, and then multiply by the number of seconds it took Rick Taylor to die. The answer will be variable B, Special Agent. Don't make a mistake. As I was driving along 77th Street, I saw Erica Taylor walking her dog. I pulled up alongside her and I asked her for directions. I motioned that I could not hear her, so she came closer to the window. I motioned again and she came even closer. When she was close enough, I grabbed her mouth and head and pulled her through the window. The dog barked as I drove away. 86 minutes later, she was stripped naked and lying on my table full of nails. Before she died, she told me where her family lived. It took me 37 minutes to reach the Taylor residence. It was nice. It was large. So large that I could take my time. We arrived at 4 p.m. I watched the house and the neighborhood for another 6 hours. Then, when night had fallen and darkness shrouded the area, I approached and entered the house. This is Sasha Taylor. She was 49 years old. She was the first Taylor that I found. She was reading a book in the living room. I slowly crept up behind her and then placed my hand on her mouth. I quickly bound and gagged her. It took 14 seconds. I then carried her to the garage. I kept her alive as I ravaged the rest of her family. She was the last Taylor to die. Like that, Special Agent? Did you like listening to how I butchered the Taylors? How Erica Taylor spent the last minutes of her life tied to a table full of nails? How Sasha Taylor had to listen to her family being murdered? All of that happened because you took my helper. And now you are going to kill Bailey Holt. The code to open door number 2 is variable A plus variable B. But you are going to get it wrong, and you are going to kill Bailey. As I was having my time with Sasha Taylor in the living room, in front of her family hanging from the ceiling covered in nails, her friend Adriana Palmer called. Her call went to voicemail. Adriana had a pretty voice. I like people with pretty voices, Special Agent. I knew at that moment I needed to see her. I made Sasha Taylor tell me everything about them. Adriana Palmer was 26 years old and was married to Michael Palmer, who was 37 years old. Their house was 21 minutes away. After I learned what I wanted to know, I spent another hour with Sasha. Then I shoved a kitchen knife into Sasha Taylor's throat. I then left for the Palmers. It was early in the morning, around 5 a.m. when I arrived at the Palmer's house. I assumed the couple was still asleep. I picked a side door lock and I crept to the bedroom. I saw the Palmers asleep. They had smiles on their faces, completely content with their lives. That was going to end. It took me 4 minutes to pull them out of their bed. I tied Adriana to a chair and I hung Michael from the ceiling in front of her. It was time to play with the Palmers. Adriana and Michael Palmer cried and whimpered. I had duct taped their mouths shut, but they still screamed for 33 minutes. I let them scream. I like it when they scream. When they were finally exhausted from the screaming, I told them we were going to play a game. A math game. I was going to ask one of them a math problem. If they got it wrong, I was going to cut the other person. We played my little game for 6 hours. It got very messy. I want you to start with Adriana Palmer's age, and then add Michael Palmer's age. You will then multiply by the time I arrived at their house. Then again, multiply by the number of hours we played my math game. The answer will open door number 3, Special Agent. On the same day, I found the Palmers. I found the Hulls. Their daughter Bailey is locked in a metal box in the next room of this dungeon, Special Agent. But her entire family is dead, and you know what killed them, Special Agent? You did. And your task force did when you abducted Dwayne Hogarth. And the killings will not stop until he is released. As I left the Palmer's house, I noticed the house across the street. I heard the voices of young women. I knew I had to go there. In the garage, the father, Lawrence Palmer, age 57, was hunched over his workbench. There was a nail gun on the ground, hooked up to an air compressor. The compressor was on and roaring loudly. I walked into the garage, grabbed the nail gun, placed it behind Lawrence's head, and pulled the trigger. It was most satisfying. I entered the house from the garage and found Leanne. She was 53, the mother in the kitchen. The air compressor was still on, so my steps were muffled. I grabbed a kitchen knife and shoved it through her throat. She was dead in 11 seconds. On the kitchen, there was a photo of Lawrence and Leanne Holt with 4 girls. Bailey, aged 18, Christine, aged 22, Nicole, aged 19, and Ruby, aged 20. I decided to take them back to my dungeon. But I could not take them all. I had to choose. I had to make a choice. I chose Christine and Bailey and killed Ruby and Nicole. I hung them in the living room, next to their parents. I left for the dungeon with the other two girls. When we got back, I put Christine on the nail table and Bailey went into the box. If you want to get into the final room, Special Agent, I want you to start with Bailey's age, then multiply it by the number of daughters the Holtz had, then add Leanne Holt's age, and finally multiply by the number of seconds it took Leanne to die. The answer will open the final door. You are in the final room, Special Agent. Your path here was paved with the blood of the Fletchers, and the Palmers, and the Taylors, and the Holtz. And that blood is on your hands, and your task force's hands. Now there is only two left alive. Inside that crate is Bailey Holt. But wait, there is also someone else as well. Do you remember Bobby Fletcher, the 9-year-old boy? He is inside that box too. And he is inside that box with Bailey because you and your task force took my helper from me. His death is on your hands. The Palmer's death is on your hands, Special Agent. They would still be alive if you did not take my helper. So let's remember the people that you killed. Why don't you start with Adriana Palmer's age, and then multiply by the number of minutes it took me to pull them out of their bed and tie Adriana to a chair and then hang Michael from the ceiling. You will next multiply by the number of hours we played my math game. The answer will be variable C. Why don't we take a minute and remember the people that you killed, like the Fletchers, who would still be alive if you didn't take my helper. Start with Lily Fletcher's age, then add little Bobby Fletcher's age. Then multiply this answer by the number of seconds it took me to butcher Lily with the power cord. The answer will be variable A. Do you see the consequences of your actions, Special Agent? Do you see what happens when you interfere with my work? Do you see what happens when you take my helpers? The Fletchers, the Taylors, the Palmers, Bella Grissom, all of them are your fault. And now, Bailey Holt, the last Holt alive, is going to burn alive because you are going to make a mistake and you are going to kill her. So listen up, you pathetic little Special Agent. The code to open the crate is this. You must add variable A to variable B, and then add variable C. Now go kill Bailey Holt, and remember, you will see me again, Agent. This will never stop. Every week, there will be more and more bodies. You have not seen the last of me. You will never see the last of me. The Taylors would still be alive if you did not take my helper, Special Agent. So start with of Sasha Taylor's age and add Scott Taylor's age. Then multiply by the number of seconds it took me to bound and gag Sasha Taylor. The answer will be variable B.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have outstanding news. I have just received word from the senior special agent in charge of our task force tactical unit. The math problem killer is dead. As you all know, 2 weeks ago the task force received a tip from a witness that observed the accomplice abducting one of our surveillance team special agents. Then, last week, the task force was able to identify that accomplice as Dwayne Hogarth and ultimately capture him. Over the past several days of interrogation, Dwayne Hogarth provided the task force with the location of a safe house that was used by the math problem killer. In concert with New Columbia police SWAT teams, the task force tactical unit surrounded the house, then began a breach to apprehend the suspect. During the breach, the suspect inside detonated a homemade explosive, leveling the house. Several SWAT and tactical unit members were injured in the explosion, but none critically. It would appear the math problem killer chose to kill himself instead of being captured by the authorities. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a trying and challenging 11 weeks. This suspect has pushed us to the limit. He has attacked our friends, our colleagues, and our families. But we remained resolute, we remained vigilant, and in the end, justice prevailed. Congratulations, everyone. And you as well, Special Agent. You saved the last victim of the math problem killer. Outstanding work. Special Agent, thank you for coming in. I am finally closing the math problem killer case file, and I wanted to know if you wanted to add anything. You were instrumental in the task force's actions. Every time that guy abducted someone and put them in one of his nightmare dungeons, you were the agent that went inside. And you went in there alone and without backup. And every time, you brought that hostage out alive. 11 people owe you their lives. That is outstanding work. Now, I know you've been working on other cases, but I wanted to give you an update. After the SWAT team assaulted the house and the suspect blew it up, there have been no further killings linked to the math problem killer. Everyone is satisfied. The mayor, the people of New Columbia. They practically wanted to give the task force and the police department a parade. But despite all of that, a small part of me makes me question our success. I guess it's for that reason that I am reluctant to close this file. I keep asking myself, did we get him? Did we take this guy down? Was that the real math problem killer at that house, or some brain-dead follower like Dwayne Hogarth that the killer tricked into killing himself? Remember, we never saw the killer's face. We never heard his real voice. We don't have any fingerprints. We have nothing. This guy was smart, and he was vicious. This monster personally killed nearly 100 people that we can prove, and probably 100 more that we cannot prove. And it wasn't with a bomb. He did it up close and personal. He studied his victims, knew their names, knew their lives. I have seen a lot of darkness in my time with the Bureau and this task force. Some of it has been worse than others, but this one will stick with me. I guess he succeeded in convincing me that he was some kind of serial killer mastermind, when in reality he was just a sociopathic narcissist that liked to hurt people. And now he is gone. But still, part of me, a small part of me in the pit of my gut, makes me think that this wasn't the last time we are going to see the math problem killer.
Subscribe.